All right, today we're cracking open a really powerful idea from the mind of Nassim Nicholas Taleb, and it all comes from his book, Skin in the Game.
Now, this is not just another business book. Not at all. Think of it more like a new pair of glasses for looking at the world, a tool for spotting nonsense from a mile away. Seriously, get ready, because this is going to change how you listen to experts forever.
And there it is. Bam. Taleb's challenge right out of the gate. This one sentence just cuts through all the noise, doesn't it? It's not about what you say. It's not about your fancy theories. It's about whether you have real consequences tied to what you believe.
To really, truly get this, we've got to go back in time, way back actually, to an old Greek myth that pretty much holds the key to this whole thing.
So, let me introduce you to Antaeus. This guy was a total beast, a giant who would challenge anyone and everyone passing through his land to a wrestling match. A match he always won. Nobody could figure out where he got his insane power.
Well, his secret weapon wasn't just his size. See, he was the son of Gaia, Mother Earth, and every single time he was in contact with the ground, he was basically supercharged with this unbeatable strength.
But then, along comes the hero Hercules. And Hercules, he's smart. Instead of just trying to brawl with this giant, he figures out the trick. In the middle of their fight, he lifts Antaeus clear up into the air.
And the second Antaeus' feet left the ground, he became totally weak, vulnerable. And just like that, Hercules crushed him. The invincible giant was, well, not so invincible anymore.
So why the mythology lesson? Because that story is the perfect metaphor for Taleb's entire idea. Real strength, real knowledge, it all has to come from direct contact with reality, with the ground. The minute you lose that contact, you become powerless.
Okay, so how does this ancient story about a giant connect to our world today? Let's nail down a formal definition of what skin in the game actually means.
To put it simply, it means you have to own your own risk. It's not just about getting a fat bonus if things go right, it's about having to pay a penalty if things go wrong. It's all about symmetry. If you get the rewards, you absolutely have to be exposed to the risks too.
And this is a super important point. A lot of people hear skin in the game and they just think, oh, you mean like a sales commission. But Taleb's idea is way deeper. It's about the real, painful, reputation-destroying sting of being wrong.
So, what happens when you don't have this, when that rule of symmetry is broken? Well, you get a world that's dangerously out of balance, a world full of what Taleb calls hidden asymmetries.
I mean, just look at this table. It shows this huge split in our world. On one side, you've got people who live in reality. The entrepreneur risking their own life savings. The artisan whose name is on every piece they make. And on the other side, you've got people who live in the abstract, who can be wrong and nothing happens to them.
And this is the real problem, right? We've built these systems where the people making huge decisions, the pundits, the policymakers, the consultants, they can tell other people what to do, but they never have to face the music if their advice blows up. They're just like Antaeus, being held safely up in the air, completely disconnected from the ground.
But here's the good news. Once you understand this principle, it's like you've just been handed a superpower. You've been given what you could call the ultimate bullshit detector.
All of a sudden, a lot of weird things about how the world works start to make perfect sense. All you have to do is ask one simple question. Who here has skin in the game?
For example, ever wonder about this? Well, a small group that's super committed, that has immense skin in the game, they can easily push around a huge indifferent majority who has nothing to lose by just shrugging and going along with it.
Or what about this one? Why is the surgeon with the messy hair and the gruff attitude often a better bet than the one who looks like they stepped out of a magazine? Because one is judged by their actual results, the other is judged by how they look.
And we've all seen this, right? How can a company be a huge success for generations under its founder, but then it just falls apart under some slick new CEO? Well, the founder had their whole life on the line. The manager, they can just find another job. Okay, so this isn't just some abstract theory to think about, it's a practical tool. Let's break down how you can actually use this idea as your own personal lens for looking at reality.
It's a really simple three-step process. Anytime you hear some advice or a big prediction, first, ask yourself, who's talking? Second, ask, what do they personally have on the line? And third, check to see if they're going to feel the pain if their advice turns out to be wrong.
What this does is it gives you a filter, a way to separate the people whose knowledge is real and hard-won from those who are just, talking.
It separates real action from cheap talk.
And that really brings us to the final thought I want to leave you with. Now that you know the rule, now that you have this lens, just look around. In the news, in politics, maybe even at your own job. Where do you see people playing the game unfairly, making calls for others, but without any skin in the game themselves? The answers might just shock you.